There's a new tight end in town for KU football. They add a big one from the transfer portal and another portal target deep dive for KU basketball. John Buggs III is one of the best three-point shooters in the entire portal.
You are Locked On Jayhawks, your daily podcast on the Kansas Jayhawks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? Derek Johnson here. This is Locked On Jayhawks. Thanks for making it your first listen every day. Thank you to everydayers catching each and every episode of the show. We are on YouTube, where you can like and subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And on today's edition of Locked On Jayhawks, we're breaking down a little KU football. Boden Groen, a tight end transfer from Rice, is going to Kansas to replace Keyan Burnett at the tight end position. Figures to be somebody who could play real snaps for KU this season. So we'll break down his game a little bit, and also we'll get into another transfer portal deep dive on another KU basketball target in John Buggs III, who is one of the best three-point shooters that is available in the transfer portal. Today's episode of the show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins with FanDuel. Okay, so let's start with a little KU football. Boden Groen is a tight end transfer from Rice, and Lance Leipold, KU football, was able to reel him in. He committed to KU earlier today. He is a 6'4", 240-pound tight end. He was graded as an 86 rated three-star transfer by 24/7 Sports. And you look at the tight end group for KU after you lost Keyan Burnett, who figured to be in the running to be a starter, at the very least be on the two deep. It left an opening for real playing time. Now, maybe Leighton Cure takes that spot down anyway, but now there's real competition with Boden Groen. Is he going to be on the two deep? Will it be Leighton Cure? You'll feel like if Cure earns his way onto the two deep, that, he had to beat out a little bit more legit competition than just getting defaulted into the spot. So that's great. You get more competition, you get more depth, you get another possible tight end, which we know KU likes to use a lot of tight ends. I mean, there's going to be formations where they're going to have three tight ends on the field if there's any similarities in what the offense has been over the past couple of seasons. So you look at what Groen did or is bringing to the table. He played at Mater Dei High School, which is in Southern California, one of the best consistent high school football programs in Southern California. Ended up going to Saddleback College, which is a junior college, but went there in the year that there was the COVID year and didn't get a season his first year. It was just canceled due to COVID. So, I don't know how does that count as the starting of your NCAA clock? I wouldn't think so. I guess, honestly, it doesn't matter either way, right? Because the JUCO stuff doesn't count. But then again, it seems like right now you only get one free year from the JUCO stuff, so maybe it'll only count one of the. I don't know how that works. Anyway, he played the next season at Saddleback, and he had 14 catches for 152 yards and one touchdown, and played his way into a spot on the team at Rice University in the Division I level. So 2022 at Rice, his first year there, he goes 9 catches for 79 yards, and then he had his best season in 2023. And I want to say they made a bowl game in 2023. He had 39 catches for 383 yards and 3 touchdowns. Those are really good numbers for a tight end at the collegiate level. Not a lot of teams are featuring a tight end where they're going to have, 800, 1,000 yards. There's some special ones that do, but that's very solid production for him there. So then this past season in 2024, he gets limited by an injury, only plays in 4 games. Now, the 4 games he did play in, 12 grabs for 94 yards. So he was, on pace. If you say, okay, 3 catches a game, he was averaging, 24 yards per game, something like that. He would have been on pace for, in a 12-game season at that point in time, 36 catches, for just under 300 receiving yards on the season. But he comes in with real production. That means in total, you're talking about a guy who has 60 career catches at the Division I level. If you include his JUCO stuff, 74 career catches between the two. So, an experienced player in that way. One thing does stick out to me in some of the stats. 39 catches for 383, so under 10 yards per catch. 9 for 79 his first year there, again under 10 yards per catch. 12 for 94 his last year, well under 10 yards per catch. Probably not the biggest burner is what that tells me. Downfield, he's probably not like a Kyle Pitts, Travis Kelce, like big play tight end. Maybe more of your reliable, sure-handed, underneath catching tight end, like a Jason Witten type, right? If you're just basing it off a bias from yards per catch, that would be kind of my assumption there. But as far as eligibility goes, I think you assume he's going to be a senior, but honestly, there might be a case here that he can have 2 years left for you, which would be, a cherry on top if you're Kansas to get a kid with multiple years. And here's why I think that could be the case. If the COVID year didn't count, the season was canceled, and then his JUCO year doesn't count, then theoretically his first year at Rice was his first year of counting to NCAA eligibility. So then 2023 would have been technically his sophomore year, and then this past season would have technically been his junior year. He only played in 4 games, he could get a red shirt. So theoretically, even though I think he's going to be listed as a senior, he might count as a redshirt junior. Kansas might be able to get multiple years out of him, which certainly wouldn't hurt, especially because then technically he'd be like, I don't know, a 24-year-old with like 2 years left to play. That certainly wouldn't hurt to, have an old man in the locker room and have that maturity into the locker room. Like that certainly helps in a lot of different ways. But I guess you just plan on him being 1 year. If he gets 2, then great. As far as the PFF grades, nothing that sticks out super big. 58.4 grade in 2023 was his best. So, 60 is about average. So, right around average there. 54.8 this past season in limited play. So, again, slightly below average there. His run block grade, if you're wondering about that, okay, is he more of a pass catcher, more of a blocker? Run block grade was only a 49 in 2023, and then it was a 58.1 in 2024. But I will say, and I've said this before, the PFF grading system, a lot of times it is giving the real benefit is the players making splash plays. And so a lot of times tight ends blocking, their main objective is going to be having a double team or just trying to seal an edge. And if you go back and look at like Jared Casey's, run blocking grades, I don't think he ever got fully enough credit for how important of a run blocker he was for KU if you just look at the PFF grades. So there could be a chance here that Groen is a better run blocker than those grades are indicating, just because he's doing his job and it's helping to double team someone. And in the PFF grading scale, which is like, I think you like lose 2 points or lose 1 point if you do something really bad, and gain 2 points if you do something really good, gain 1 point if you do something good. If he's having a double team and he's just taking care of his block, he's not bulldozing the guy, he's not pancaking him, he's just taking care of his block, that might be a 0 on the grading scale. I don't know, And if that is the case, like, you're not going to get boosted for that. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he's a better run blocker than those grades kind of indicate, to say the least. But overall, you look at the tight end room now for Kansas. I think Deshawn Hanika is the guy that you're expecting to be the starter at this point in time, but could grow and come in with some real experience and challenge him. Yeah, he also has to learn the playbook. And, tight ends, that is a very difficult position to learn the playbook very quickly, because it's not like, the thing about the tight ends is that you are involved in everything. You have to know all the passing routes. You have to know all the pass protections, because sometimes you don't have to pass block, and you have to know all the run protections. So and you have to know motions. The tight ends have to know everything like the quarterbacks do in a lot of ways there, right? So that makes it difficult to get adjusted. So I think Hanika is definitely the favorite to start, but this gives you more competition for that second string. And again, like I said earlier, if Leighton Cure ends up being the second string, that's great, because that means that he had to beat out more real competition now, right? Because with Jaden Ham and Carson Brune, 2 young guys who came in as being players that you hoped would turn into something down the road, that still might be the case, but right now they're still young players, especially in the case of Brune, who's a redshirt freshman, and Ham is still a redshirt sophomore at this point in time. Then you have Quentin Conley, who's a redshirt junior, but he's a walk-on. So this gives you more depth. It makes you feel like if you do go to those 3 tight end sets, have 3 ones you feel a little bit more comfortable about. And solid addition for KU, gives them their 5th scholarship tight end. All right, could KU basketball make another transfer portal addition with one John Buggs III? He certainly puts his last name to test with his 3-point shooting. We'll get into why he would make sense for KU and why I love his 3-point shooting next. This episode of Locked On Jayhawks is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, as are the NHL playoffs, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it so easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. Player props, performance trends, same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. They're sending out boosts all the time, too. I get into the golf betting this week's the PGA Championship, so that's super fun. You can get Scotty Scheffler, 4-1 favorite, Rory McIlroy, plus 450, Bryson DeChambeau, plus 700. You can go with one of the live guys. I guess Bryson is too. John Rahm at 18-1. What about Xander Schauffele at 22-1? Plenty of bets like that over at FanDuel in addition to the NBA playoffs and the NHL playoffs. New to FanDuel, it's a perfect time to sign up. Head up to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA and the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Locked On Jayhawks, and thank you to Everydayers catching each and every episode. Thank you if you caught already our earlier transfer portal target breakdown, deep dive, whatever you're going to call it, earlier this week. And don't forget, you can check out Locked On College Basketball or Locked On College Football every day as well. Okay, transfer portal target time for KU basketball. That would be John Buggs III. This was reported by Sam, I don't know if it's Kaiser, of 247 Sports, which is not related with like 24/7 Sports. Anyway, whatever, neither here nor there. He said that Buggs has offers from Kansas, BYU, Utah, SMU, Wyoming, FIU, and College of Charleston. Now, this was a couple weeks ago. It's a very interesting list because, again, as we've talked about many other times, sometimes these lists that come out, it's like, okay, how real is that offer? Is it based on a backup plan? Is it just you're boosting up the list and it didn't actually happen, but the school's not going to come out and say, no, that didn't happen because it's bad PR for them? You don't entirely know. But I do think it does make some sense for Kansas. I just think it depends. Like the College of Charleston role, if John Buggs goes there, is probably to be one of their starting guards and one of their best players, one of their best scorers. Versus if you come to BYU or Kansas, you're looking at more of a specific role, being a role player. If you're at Utah, maybe it's more of in between those two, right? It depends what school you're going to. So it does make sense that there's different schools. It's just probably different roles for what those would have. So Buggs III, he is a 6'3", 189-pound shooting guard. Was most recently at East Tennessee State, but before that, he was at North Texas. Before that, he was at UTSA. And yes, before that, he was at Hill College, which is a junior college. And yes, before that, he was at UMass. So we're talking a lot of schools here, right? We're talking UMass, Hill College, UTSA, North Texas, ETSU. That's 5 schools for John Buggs III. It's like, how does this guy still have eligibility? Well, the JUCO stuff with Hill College and you know, you take a redshirt year in there, and then boom, all of a sudden, you're good to go for another year. I don't know, COVID year in there, whatever. We get crazy with this. But Buggs is an elite shooter. I think one of the best shooters in the transfer portal. And for a Kansas team that needs more shooting, okay, makes sense to me, right? So this would be his 7th season of college basketball. And maybe that's what the wait is here too, that he hasn't committed yet. Maybe he's waiting to get officially, like he has to get it approved that, yeah, this year should have been a red shirt or something like that. I don't know. But 11.1 points per game. This was at ETSU, if you lost track of all the schools. 2.3 rebounds per game, 1.3 assists per game, 0.7 steals, 0.1 blocks. So immediately off the bat, you see those stats and you're like, it's really only scoring. It's really only shooting. But that is the role that Kansas kind of needs off the bench at this point in time. 42% from the floor, 41% from three-point range. So very high efficiency from three-point range. And did it on very high volume, 6.4 three-point attempts per game. Shot 74% at the line, solid there, but it's only 1.2 attempts per game. He's not getting to the free throw line very much. Overall, effective field goal percentage, true shooting percentage are good and solid. It's all because of three-point shooting. Now, the on-off offensive numbers, the team was 1 point better on offense when he was on the floor. They were about 5 points worse defensively when he was on the floor. So this is an offensive player. This is a shooter. This is what you would bring him in for, to shoot the basketball. And let me get into why the shooting is so impressive. Because 41%, 6.5 attempts per game. That sounds super impressive on its own, but I don't know that it fully sells what exactly you're getting here. So what are the strengths for John Buggs III? It's the shooting. It's the scoring efficiency. 92nd percentile in three-point percentage. On an 89th percentile three-point attempt rate. Usually the more threes you attempt per game, it's going to lower your efficiency because teams are going to scout you more. Teams are going to defend you with their better defenders more. Teams are going to try to chase you off the three-point line. They might face guard you. They're going to do different things to try to take that away. And also, if you're taking more threes over the course of the game, because of that, you're probably going to end up with some that are longer, some that are contested versus a guy who might only take 2 per game because they might be 2 wide open ones. Think of like DeJuan Harris, right? So automatically impressive there. But shoots it well from all over. 38.2% on above the break threes for John Bugg III. So that's a good number. How about this one? Corner threes. John Buggs III, 57.7% on corner threes this past season. Somehow that was only in the 95th percentile nationally. There has to be somebody who went like 3 for 5 or something. I don't know. You're also talking about a good mid-range shooter. Wasn't a ton of volume there, but 47%. That was 85th percentile nationally in mid-range shooting. Overall, 90th percentile in effective field goal percentage, 82nd percentile in true shooting percentage. And you might be wondering, okay, well, maybe it's a one-game sample, or not one game, one season sample at East Tennessee State, albeit an impressive one. What if we go back a year before at North Texas to extend this sample of shooting? And at North Texas, he was in the 98th percentile in true shooting percentage. So it was even better. He was in the 99th percentile in North Texas in three-point attempt rate, and he was in the 99th percentile in effective field goal percentage. So he was even better shooting the basketball at North Texas the year before. And he can do it, like I said, in a multitude of different ways. It's not just the different zones. He can make them contested. He can make them spotting up. He was in the 92nd percentile in spot up points per possession at North Texas. Off ball screens, he was in the 92nd percentile there too. In catch and shoot, he was in the 95th percentile at North Texas. And off the dribble, he was literally the best in the country at points per possession when he was with the Mean Green in points per possession off the dribble. And also, here's another strength, his long range three-point shooting. It's not just, the normal threes. No, he can do it with flash too. He took 47 threes of 25 or more feet, and he made them at a 47% clip. 47% on deep threes. That's 92nd percentile nationally. So out of comparison, Buggs took 2.0 deep threes per game. CBB Analytics classifies that as 25-plus foot threes. So 2 per game, right? And again, did it at 47%. Ochai Agbaji, who was a first-team All-American, was unbelievable shooter for KU, especially his final season. Ochai Agbaji's final season, when KU won the title, took 1.7 deep threes per game at 40%. So this dude was taking higher volume of deep threes per game at 7% higher from a dude who was a first-team All-American. No, this is not me saying he's better than, no. This is one element of his game, and it's the only element of his game that you would be bringing him in for realistically, but it's a pretty darn good one that he has the ability to do. And again, not just a one-year thing. 47% from deep threes this past year. What if we go to his year before at North Texas? Yeah, he shot 47.2% on deep threes. This dude is an absolute flamethrower from behind the arc. Doesn't turn the ball over either. He plays off the ball as a low usage option. 98th percentile turnover rate, 86th percentile assist to turnover rate, and only a 38th percentile usage rate. Love that too. The idea that he's not just a three-point shooter who has to have the ball in his hands. Because if you're coming to Kansas and you're going to be the 7th, 8th, 9th man, you got to be able to play without the ball in his hands. And he does that at a high level. And then even though he's not huge and would be one of KU's smaller players, at this point, there is a big difference between if you're asking him to play the Diggy Coit role, him being 6'3", versus Diggy Coit, who is, 5'9" on a good day, right? Which would be a plus for KU. Now, you get to the questions, though, the defense is a question. 24th percentile in defensive RAPM, 49th percentile in defensive win shares, 20th percentile in on-off defensive rating, and 15th percentile in Hakeem rate. I don't know that he's known for being a good defender. In fact, he might be known for being a bad defender. But if you're looking at this specific role, if we're talking about what that role would be, Diggy Coit, Jalen Coleman-Land's role, you can get away with that. And I think you have built up enough insulation with the rest of your roster to be okay with that you need the three-point shooting. But anyway, that is, not going to be a strength of his game. Also doesn't really do much else besides shoot threes, right? 11th percentile free throw attempt rate. Doesn't get to the line. Doesn't rebound. He's 20th percentile or worse at both offensive and defensive rebounding rate. And then even though the overall scoring efficiency is good, it's all because of three balls and I guess the mid-range too. But he was 34th percentile in two-point percentage. So he's not somebody who's going to score in a myriad of different ways, right? he also continually bounced around. I don't know if that's a real question, but again, he started school in 2019, which good experience, I guess, but he's been at 5 schools. This will be his 6th. Is that something that you have to worry about in some way? If he's at the end of the bench, is that something that is going to cause problems? Or, Jalen Coleman-Lands was at like 4 schools before Kansas, and he was a great locker room guy, right? So it doesn't necessarily correlate, but it is something you have to find out what are the reasonings for that. Now, how exactly would he fit into Kansas? We'll get to that next. This episode of the show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Have you ever checked your bank account and wonder, where'd all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. And all of a sudden, you might even be doing it with your credit card statement, and you're like, oh, that piled up. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. They have all-in-one convenience where instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. You heard me right, 50%. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Locked On Jayhawks. Again, don't forget to check out Locked On College Football or Locked On College Basketball, and make sure to subscribe here to Locked On Jayhawks because all your portal news, we got the NBA Draft Combine going on this week, and certainly plenty of news coming from that we'll get to here on LOJ. Okay, how would John Buggs III fit in with KU? I mean, it's very obvious. Like, we normally do this and we say, okay, what would they add to the team? What would they not add to the team? He would add shooting to the team. What would he not add to the team? I mean, it wouldn't add more defense, but it feels like at this point in time, Kansas has a lot of good defenders on the team. The big question to me is, do they have enough three-point shooting to build around this roster? And you also, I think, at the same point in time, you lost Diggy Coit to the transfer portal to Maryland. That Diggy Coit, Jalen Coleman-Lands, Brandon Green, like, there's other guys you can talk about here. The player for Bill Self, who is on the fringe, are they a rotation player? Are they not, right? Maybe Bill Self, a specific year, goes to the 7-man rotation. Maybe it's an 8th-man rotation. But he's the guy who's right, either that 7th or 8th man, or he's that 9th man where it's like, he might come in and get a shot for 5 minutes. Or if somebody's not playing well, he might play more. Or if he's playing well off the bench, he might play more, right? We saw that with Diggy Coit. You think of the Houston game. He plays like 30 minutes in the Houston game because he's making shots. He's playing well. Other players aren't performing up to par. So Diggy Coit plays more. Other games where maybe Diggy Coit starts 0 for 3 and, doesn't have an advantage on the defensive end, and he's going to only play 8 minutes in that specific game, right? So the role is going to vary, and that takes the specific guy, and is Buggs interested in that, where he'd get probably a decent NIL payday, probably more than a College of Charleston could offer. But at a College of Charleston, and that's just one of his offers, FIU or Wyoming or something, those schools, maybe they don't have as much money to offer in the specific role, but they would have a bigger role to offer. So it's kind of, what does he want to do with his final year at college? But from the Kansas perspective, I think he would come in, and to me, he would be the best three-point shooter on the team. I mean, I think he's one of the best three-point shooters in the country. Like, he has an argument for that right now. So I think if he comes in, he's the best three-point shooter on the team. I would absolutely love this addition. This would be a definite take for me. This would be a make this happen if you can. And I think the focus right now for Kansas is obviously trying to wrap up, that one more stud player, that one more possible, star player, so to speak. And I get that. But once you move on past that and you circle back to filling out the rest of the scholarships and filling out the role guys, this guy would be the top of the list for me, I think, at this point in time, for like a bench guard. If you want somebody for that Diggy Coit, Jalen Coleman-Lands role, I think this would be the guy that I would be kind of looking at there. Because if you're talking about needing more three-point shooting, you're not going to get much better than what John Buggs III brings. He can do it off the dribble. He can play off ball. He can play low usage. He can do it from deep. He can do it from the corner. He can do it from up top. He can do it from everywhere. He can shoot the 3-ball. And yes, might not be the best defensive player you've had, might not add a bunch to the rebounding and the other stuff. But that's why you have these other players who you brought in to be specific role players. You brought in Jaden Dawson to be a good defender and shoot threes. You brought Melvin Council in to be a dog and play good defense. You brought Trey White in to be an athletic wing and get your rebounds. You have Flory Badunga to block shots and get rebounds. Go out and get a shooter as well. And I would love me some John Buggs III. All right, that'll do it for this episode of Locked On Jayhawks. You can find our show anywhere you get your podcasts, including on our YouTube page. See you next time with LOJ.